and welcome to PM Express, and today we are talking about something which is crucial, something which is very, very serious. And if you monitor the promo, I said even though it's serious, we seem to have shelved it. We talk more than we do about it. And I said every nation in this world, within 24 hours, you can determine the future of that nation by just driving through the nation and seeing what the children are doing. If they are hustling nuts and selling shoelaces, selling dog chains, well, you know, 20, 30 years' time, these are your future. If they're in school and working hard and protecting the environment and respecting their culture, you know the future you will have. And so I need not say, you drive around towns, you go to urban areas, rural areas, and you see the majority of the children. That is our future. And so the ministry is rolling out a plan which says Operation End Streetism, get the kids off the road for a better future. We should all join into it. But what are the timelines? What are the budget lines? How is it going to happen? Where are they going to go once we get them off the streets? Who are their parents who are responsible for them? Indeed, why now, 2018, these kids have been on the roadside, and sometimes they even share the traffic light with the police. They share the traffic light with the police. School is free. They should just go anywhere and say, look, Mr. Headmaster, I want to come to school, and the headmaster won't be able to refuse them. Yet, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of children on our streets. That's our future. Our future of Ghana is on the streets. My name is Nana Asakwa, Chief of the Little Republic of Akwamodu Masa. When I come back, we're going to get the kids off the streets. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying here with me for the first time. So, you know, I'm a traditionalist, so first time which I'm Bantamunsa. I'm sure you have it, you know, Bantamunsa in your tradition. The one that comes late, you know, gets fined a bottle of gin. And since it's the first time on our show, we'll find him a bottle of something. Right. Richard Ajete representing the gender ministry, but he's particularly in charge of the project Clear the streets, streetism. Richard, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Now, what does it mean, or this operation? Educate us. What does it mean?
Yeah, basically, when we talk of streetism, streetism basically refers to the life situation of people on the streets who are in difficult circumstances. That is basically what we define as streetism. But then the project became very necessary for the ministry following the statistics we have. As way back 2012, we are having about 60,495 children on the streets. Today, as I speak to you, we are estimating about 300,000 people on the streets. And that is very worrisome because...
so when you're saying children, we are talking 18 and below?
Yeah, 18 below. Children, 2012, they are about 60,000. But today, if you look at statistically, children in the street now constitute almost about 95,000 plus.
That's cities across the country?
Cities across the whole country. I'm talking about the Greater Accra region. I'm talking about Kumasi, Tamale, those places.
The 2012 60,000 was Accra?
Yes, it was Accra, which the Greater Accra municipal, Greater Accra alone constitutes almost about 50,000. And we have West Adenta and Co. that make up the 65,000. Yeah.
Okay. And you said children who are on the street and facing difficulty.
Yes, they are in a difficult situation because they find the streets as their source of livelihood and the place where they live. For instance, if I borrow the definition of United Nations, 1995, it said the children see the streets as a place of, as their home and source of livelihood, where they have no supervision, they have no direction, they have no protection by any adult or responsible adult. So that means that these children are in very difficult circumstances. And for that matter, they need to be looked at. For instance, we're finding these children and finding these persons on the streets, it serves as a threat. It serves as a threat to the states as well as our commercial security. It also becomes a breeding ground for all sorts of criminal. And again, it serves as a source of spreading STDs, HIVs, and all those stuff. So it's very, very critical issue.
See, Richard, I remember I had this argument before, and somebody said, "Oh, I mean, you go to America, you go to UK, and you have people who are homeless." You see, and I may be wrong, but you see, like you go to UK and you find somebody is homeless, probably drug addict, and came from prison, wife divorced him, and unlike here where you can move into your aunt's house or your brother's house, you're on your own. But with our situation, he just lives in, maybe Cape Coast or a little, the Dumasan decides that, well, there's no job in the Dumasan, so I'm going to live on the street. Our circumstances are different, where you wouldn't say they are destitute. It's just that he's coming to seek opportunity on the street. Whereas you go to the advanced country, look, the street is literally, he has nowhere to go. That's the street. But those on the streets here, come Easter, they all buy their shopping, go to their villages, go and party, dance, and then after Easter, they come back. So how are we looking at this?
Yes, I think in our case here, part of the world like Ghana here, the situation is quite different. In the initial stage, in the later days, you'll find that we have a very strong traditional systems where the extended family play a very critical role to ensure that when children are not finding jobs or they don't have no interest in farming, they have the way of absorbing them. Now we are having the traditional system which is totally in decline. The role the traditional plays is decline. Then if you look at our family systems, families are now breaking down either as a divorce or as a separation. And that is what makes our situation different. Now look at Greater Accra as I'm speaking to you. In Greater Accra, look at Circle, look at Opebia area, look at how nuisance these children are creating. And that sometimes also affects or even attracting investors. It affects as well. So our case is quite different. In Europe, as you are saying, yes, I agree with you. For instance, if you take a country like Ethiopia, Ethiopia saw this particular situation as very worrisome. And what they did was that they established what we call community-based approach in slums or squatters area where these people can be absorbed. In the case of Ghana, we are not having that way. And that is the issue we have, which is more critical. So we need to really look at it.
Okay, before we go on, let's listen to what the Minister for Gender says on this issue.
In order to comprehensively deal with the issue of streetism and the Kaya menace, the ministry has recently launched an Operation Get Off the Streets Now for a Better Life campaign, which is aimed at mapping and creating a database of these groups to ascertain their numbers and characteristics with the aim of designing tailor-made programs to address the varied causes of their challenges. The program will entail advocacy and sensitization at the community level for all children of school-going age to be in school, integration of children of school-going age into the school system, reintegration with families with psychological support, adult literacy, skills training, entrepreneurship development, financial literacy, and enhanced access to financial services. Some of them are foreigners, and so we are engaging Ministry of Foreign Affairs to find out whether we can send them back. If we can't, then in discussions, they will also have to be part of the shelters that we are talking about. Some of the children ran away from home. Some of them are orphans. And in discussions, we'll be able to find out whether there was abuse at home. Is that why they ran away? I met a young boy who had actually run away from home from Togo, and he walked and hitchhiked his way to Accra. Another boy comes from Ashama. Why is he on the streets? He said he didn't have a uniform. So we were able to locate his family, reintegrate him back, only for him to run back after 2 months. He was brought back to me. I asked him why. He said somebody stole his uniform. And so you have quite a number of recalcitrant children. And it's not something that you can just finish in one day. We have a 5-year plan to be able to work out, because these are sensitive areas. Why does a child keep running away from home back onto the street. And it's not good enough to just send them back. You need to have discussions with their families and reorient their minds, the sort of psychological issues. And so we have a 5-year program to be able to organize all these things and eradicate streetism. It doesn't mean that they will no longer go back, but we will also talk a lot about the fact that it's a crime to actually be on the streets. And we're also in discussions with the various media houses to educate our people that begging is an offense, and that those of us who give to beggars must not continue to do that. And those of us who allow the young boys to clean the windscreens must also stop. Those of us who buy from the hawkers must stop. It's demand and supply. So we need to do a lot of advocacy, and that's what we are on.
It's a 5-year program, and I'm sure if we're going to narrate, we'll have 1,001 stories about why every child thinks they have to be on the road. I want to come back to the 5-year thing, but you know the issue about parenting being responsible for the awards. We are unable to look at that area so that a mother or a father will be scared that, oh, hold on, if they find you on the road by this time, I'll be in trouble, and therefore I need to know where you are at all times. I don't know, that angle.
Yes, I think, Nana, what you're saying, I just get it. But what I'm saying that in the case of streetism, it has both, the causes are both indirect and direct. Mm-hmm. And the causes is what will give you the holistic picture of the whole situation. For instance, if you want to identify the indirect causes, one of them is poverty. Mm-hmm. One of them is large family size. One, again, we also have a large family size. We also have where there's a divorce or separation, or there's a death of one or both parents, or there's a conflict. When it comes to the direct, you are having child abuse, either physical abuse or emotional abuse or child neglect or peer pressure. So putting these factors holistically, that is why we are finding it difficult in this circumstance we have. Because these factors are interplay to each other. And that is what has magnitude the whole situation that you find it quite difficult to understand.
Are we also not finding an excuse for them? Because I'm sure no matter how poor or hungry or large size your family is, you can't just stroll to Flagstaff House. Hey, let's go to Flagstaff House. We are hungry. We're going to go and eat. Because you just know that even if you are dying, it is not allowed. So we have now created a situation that, well, if we get to this point, you can break the law. But if we draw the line so that when you start giving birth and start, you know that, listen, this is what is going to happen, I don't know, will people be more responsible?
Yeah, people will know. If you look at our system we have both the legal and the policy frameworks, which protect and guide these children. But then the issue is the implementation. And the various institutions or agencies know their critical role that they are supposed to play. That is what matters. And again, if I look at UNICEF recently, they conducted an assessment of these children on the streets. And they were saying that has become a very thematic issue because streetism or persons on the streets have created what you call urbanization episodes. So you now go to our urban areas and you find that you're finding children selling, or you have street hawkers, you have street beggars, you have destitute, you have mental challenged people all over because of these situations. So basically it is quite difficult to be able to say, I'm stopping this. Mm-hmm. Perhaps if you look at our population, Ghana now, statistically the same population is about 27-point-something million people with a growth rate of about 3.1%. And that is telling you that, yes, there's so much pressure. Mm-hmm. And most of the youth are finding it very difficult. They're no more finding farming as a lucrative activity. Mm-hmm. They all want to rush to the city to get a lucrative job to do. And that has also been a problem. So it's quite difficult to do.
So in 5 years, year one, what do we do?
So the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection have come out with a project called Operation Get Off the Street for Better Life. And the project in 5 years, in 4 phases. The first phase, we are looking at giving sensitization to the general public about the menace of this particular citizen. Then also we do what we call the mapping out of the hotspot areas. Currently we are having almost about 345 hotspot areas in Ghana. Wow. 345 hotspot areas. So we wanted to do the mapping of the hotspot areas in Ghana. Then we do the data collection. The data collection, we are looking at what we call the head count. If you go on the streets with a detailed questionnaire instrument, you don't find the person on the street very attractive to that. So we do what we call the head count first. After we're able to rescue them or have a negotiation with them, then we go in with the deeper assessment and the screening instruments. So that's what's involved in phase 1. In the phase 2,
so phase 1 is what, data
phase
collection?
1, you have the sensitization of the general public. That's what we are doing now. You have the mapping of the hotspots. Then you have the data collection.
Okay.
So that is what phase 1 within the 5 years. The second phase have what we call the reunification. The reunification entails 3 things. 1, you look at enrollment. Once you're able to do your data collection, do the enrollment. And that is where the screening and assessment of the person that you have rescued or you are negotiating to get out of the street for better life, you do the enrollment. After the enrollment, then you do what you call the tracing. Tracing, you trace where the person is coming from. Then you do what you call the reintegration to the family or the community. So that is involved the second phase. And then
enroll to what?
You do the enrollment. After you have the data collection of the person, you have the number, you know the total number on the streets, and then you're able to carry out your various assessments of them. You do what you call enrollment.
As onto the program?
Yes, an enrollment process, either you send them to the shelter home or within the street where they are. You know, we are having 2 programs. Some will be sent to the shelter homes, and some in the street, you just talk to them to understand and how you can link them to various proper interventions. So that's so you do enrollment. And in the enrollment, after the enrollment, you do what you call the tracing. After the tracing, then you come to the reintegration. So that is the process that's involved in the reunification. Then we have what we call categorization of the data you have collected. When you look at the persons on the streets, we have the street beggars, we have the street hawkers, destitute, mental challenged persons, families on the streets. So you categorize them, and then you know how you can link each of them to any proper intervention. And that falls on the 3rd phase. So the 3rd phase is where you link them to the various proper interventions, like the livelihood empowerment against poverty, the Ghana School Feeding Program, the COVET, we have the YES program, we have one district, one factory, one village, one dam. That programs food for planting and jobs. So link them to these interventions. That fall within the 3rd phase, within the 5 years. And the final stage is for us to strengthen the various legal and policy frameworks. We have numerous legal policy frameworks in Ghana here, like the Children Act 1998 and its complementary child rights regulations, which is 2002, which is all built on the 1992 Constitution. We had the Domestic Violence Act 2007. We have the Human Trafficking Act 2005. We have the Juvenile Justice Act 2003. And we even have the Birth and Death Act 1965. So we need to strengthen all these policies and legal frameworks. We also have social protection policy. We also have child protection policy. We need to work with this to encourage people to get off the street to have a better life. So that is what the final stage involves.
Does this include like kids on the rivers, you know, jumping and fishing and stuff like that, or this is just?
The children on the fishing aspect is what we call child labor. And child labor sometimes have a link with streetism. Because in streetism, you also deal with missing children. You deal with the trafficking children. You deal with the neglect children. So they all fall within. And remember, when children are involved in fishing, it means that they fall within what you call child neglect. And child neglect is one of the consequences that sometimes affects.
Does this program cover them, or they are on a separate program?
It covers them. It's have a whole list of people that we are going to identify. Like I'm talking of, we even have street beggars, street aids, those that help those begging on the streets. How do you able to make sure that they also have a better life? So these are some of the things we talk about.
How about training? Because some of them are just, they are
Yes.
ably fit, but probably not employable.
Yes, Nana, the issue is that what I like to share with you, for instance, having this 4 phase, the project has specific objectives. Our first objective of this project is to identify and deliver a core services that will be a potential to secure this reintegration. So you need to identify, right? You need to identify these people and offer them better service, social services. When I'm talking of services, I'm talking of social services like health and education, where national health insurance scheme is falling in place, where those supposed to go to school, they will be linked to education programs. That is what we call social services. When we talk of livelihood activities, we are talking of activity that will generate income at home to empower those households that may be because of poverty, that's why they're on the streets. So that is the first specific objective we have on this program. The second thing we have is to strengthen this legal and the policy frameworks we have, which I have mentioned to you, the Children Act and all this
when you
stuff.
say strengthening, at the moment it's law. I mean, every child, some of the children 8, 9, 12 should be in school.
Yes.
You drive to Spintex traffic light, there's the police there, there are the children there. I mean, they're all there happily trading, and this one's also protecting the law, which law we don't know yet, but they are protecting the law. And then there's there. We too drive past and see them and maybe buy chips from them or buy peanuts from them and drive by. So when you say strengthen the law, I mean, are you going to add, I mean, what else can you do? Because the law is there to say, look, stop this child. So what law do you add to the law before I stop buying or before the policeman tells the child, look, go home, you can't be here at this hour?
Yes, if you can recall from the footage you gave about the speech by my Honorable Minister, Honorable Tikujaba, when she was speaking, she even emphasized that begging is a crime. It means that in the country, we have existing legal laws or legal frameworks which need to protect these children.
Are the police aware that begging is a crime?
Well, I think I asked somebody one question, I think just on one of the guys on the streets, that are you familiar with this, the Children Act? He said, what is Children Act? I don't know what it is. So we have these legal frameworks which are in existence, but people are not aware of them. How many of us are conversant with the Juvenile Act, 2003? Unified Justice Act. How many of us are conversant with it? Most of us don't know.
Even I don't know.
Yes. Even when you look at the Human Trafficking Act, how many of them are conversant with it? Even the social protection policy we have in the country, which have a more broader holistic framework, which protects these people, linking them to various interventions. How many of us are aware of it? Even how many of us are aware about these social interventions, that the livelihood empowerment against poverty, which critical objective is to smoothen consumption and link people to these social services. The National Health Insurance Scheme, which is supposed to protect access and equity to quality health, the basic health service for all Ghanaians. How many of us are aware of this intervention? The school feeding, which is supposed to provide one hot meal for a child who is in school going in to retain them at class. How many of us are aware of this intervention? So we need to talk about these interventions. Even with regard to what we call the child protection policy. Within the child protection policy, we have what we call the do no harm framework within it. How many of us know about these frameworks? How many of them are? So we need to, and that is why we have this particular discussion, for people to be aware that being on the street is a crime.
I'm going to take a quick break here. And when I come back, the next one is, if you are aware of it, then what? And I say this because I know my good friend in Wale Wale, Samuel. Samuel is disabled. And he says the government says they've increased the disabled allowance. It's on paper, but he's never received it. So he's very much aware, but he's not receiving it. So we come back and find out that once you are aware, do you automatically get it, or what happens? Don't go. Well, like I said before the show, indeed, personally, maybe next to the environment, I don't know, maybe it's even on par with the environment. This is one of the most serious things we talk about. The environment and the children, I don't even know who to place, but this is the most serious things to talk about. Because as we're here, we are aging away and you have to hand over the baton. But who are you handing over to? Just the 1-2% who were privileged to go to quote-unquote international schools. What happens to all these children? But 300, standing army, that's what I call them. That's a 300,000 standing army waiting for something to trigger. But you mentioned beautiful laws and beautiful policies and asking how many people are aware, how many people are aware. I give you an example of my friend Samuel, who is disabled, is up north, and I'm surprised today he hasn't WhatsApped me. But he sent me a message and said, look, Nana, I'm still waiting for this disabled allowance that's been increased from, I think, 2% of common fund to 2.5.
2.5%,
yeah. He still hasn't got it. He's very much aware of it. So once we are aware of all these laws, I am aware that children should be in school. It pains my heart to see them. And it frightens me when I see all these people selling sugar cane and pawpaw and everything. But what can I do? I know, then what?
Yeah, I think, that's what I earlier told you about, like this disability fund, where we are talking, which is supposed to be disbursed at the district level by the district assemblies. Yes, normally what is happening as a nation, what we face as a critical is data collection. It's a data collection. If we're able to have very well database on these disadvantaged people, these vulnerable groups, I think implementation of these interventions and policies is quite very flexible. But most of it is a data collection. We don't have a database on these people. Even at the district level, you go there and you really want to check about the number of people with disability that the assembly have. They don't have it. Within the social protection framework that we have in the country here, we have something we call it the complementary services. The complementary services implies that at every district level, you should be able to have the database of all category of vulnerability you have within your districts. And then you identify various interventions within your district and link them to these interventions. You're not doing that. So your friend at Upper West Region, for instance, someone, maybe the data have not be able to allocate him, and that is the issue we have.
He's typing something.
So we need to have a database on these people. For instance, if you look at our population, I think people with disability constitute about, I think, 0.3% or so, which form a greater part of our population. Do we have the data on them? If you look at people in extreme poverty, including those on the streets, if you look at GLSs, they constitute about 8.4%. As a nation, do we have a database on these people? And that is why Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection is taking upon this project, Operation Get Off the Streets, by starting the first phase for us to have a database. We do a head count and we know the actual number of people on the streets. What category of people do we have on the streets? In terms of families in the streets, in terms of beggars, in terms of hawkers, begging aids, street aids, we must know. So that if somebody works with the Ministry of Gender, is I want to know the number of kaya in our various markets. What is the population? I could easily tell you. And when you have this database, that is why it becomes more feasible to draw up or come out with a protection plan. Then you can do the linkage, but you don't know the number. How do you help them?
Now, let me go back to one of the things where once you've done, I think, sensitization, there are those who go to a shelter and those who go. I mean, 300,000. I mean, how many shelters do we have? And I say this because I've hosted a show where the police stopped a bus, and I think they had 300 children that were being trafficked from the north to the south, and so they kept them somewhere. The reason why they left them was because, I mean, they bought 360 kinky for breakfast, 360 kinky for lunch, and by evening they couldn't afford 1,000 balls of kinky, so they had to let the kids go because feeding was becoming a problem. So I mean, 300,000. I mean, this was only 300. So 300,000. Even if you are unfortunate and you get 2,000 or 5,000 out of this 300,000 who have to go into shelter, I mean, that's the whole Accra Academy. You have to get one secondary school and empty it.
Yes, Nana, once again, our Honorable Minister tasked that all the district directors to come out with the various shelters they have in each district. So as a moment as I speak with you, the shelters have been identified, though they are not enough. But this particular project is not necessarily focusing on shelter alone. We wanted to have a program where we will approach the person on the streets and have a discussion with you. It's a participatory type of discussion. Kojo, you have been on the streets for many years, about 12 or 15 years. What have changed in your lifestyle? Government have all these projects like reforestation. We have what we call, the government is not coming out, it's like one district, one factory, one village, one dam, planting for food and jobs. We have the various interventions we have. Kojo, government have come out with this program. You have been on the streets. How much income do you make a day? Why not I help you to enroll yourself in any of our vocational institutions or technical institutions to upgrade yourself and become more employable or jobbable? So these are some of the things that the program is looking at. We are not necessarily rescue all of them to shelter homes. In some situations, we talk to them, we negotiate with them, because there are people who have the skills. Some of them are earning high income on the street, and it's quite very difficult to lure the person out of the street. So you need to talk with the person. That is why the program is more participatory and observation. Because if you rush them, you want to rescue them, and put all of them in the shelter homes, we can't take all of them, as you are pointing out. So that one is a point, yeah.
Has a pilot begun, or has a test begun in terms of talking to one or two people to test the waters to see how it works?
When we develop the instruments for the head count, we pre-test it in some selected hotspots within Greater Accra here. And we find out that, yes, it is more reliable and more solid instruments. And in the discussion with them, it even helps us to identify some of these street banks who themselves walk to the ministry and want to find out how best the ministry can help them. As I speak to you, I have about almost 40 of them who have, some of them even have passed their JSS and HS examination. And they have a very good record. I have one of the guys who have a very good grade and even want to enroll himself in Ghana Police. And so even today, he went for the recruitment selection process. So you find some of these guys who have a very good qualification, but maybe they don't know where to approach or where to go to get themselves a job. So the exercise is to educate them. And so we identify these banks, and they help us to identify some of their members who have these requisite qualifications and are willing to be helped.
Richard, how much money do you need?
Wow. That's a very big question. Because if you take a program like Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, I remember in 2008, when we started the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, we then have about 1,645 households. At that time, we started with 2 million Ghana cedis.
With 1,645?
Yes, I remember 1,655, 1,645 households. At that time, government of Ghana supported the program with 2 million Ghana cedis. That is 2008. You are talking of this 1,655. And you are having a citizen population of 300,000. I don't know. That is why the ministry is appealing for all stakeholders, both donor partners as well as any voluntary organization that can help in this particular exercise. Because the ministry alone, government alone cannot do it. We need the partner support in this particular exercise.
See, but no matter what the figure will be, the consequences of not doing it will be more than that figure.
Yes, I agree with you. I really, really agree with you. Because as I said, the consequence of this criticism is a breeding ground for criminals. It's for fact. Secondly, it's a source of spreading a lot of STDs as well as HIV, AIDS, and all those things. Because some of them are defiled, some of them are being raped. And then you find most of them having children with no fathers, parents. So you find OVCs more common. Again, even threaten the state's security as well as commercial security. So it is quite very, very critical that we need to solve this particular problem.
Let me see if I can catch up with a couple of messages, but my friend in Wale Wale, Samuel, has sent a message. He says, good evening, and I got the hint that the funds is being released now.
Yeah.
Just that to keep money which is meant to come in every quarter for a year is enough push a disabled enough to push a disabled person on the district to beg. So many factors push persons with disability to beg. The family, society, and government have all failed persons with disability somewhere. So that's saying for a whole year, if you haven't given them money to go and beg. I'll take some of your messages, but I think they look a bit too big on the screen, so some of the words have disappeared. If they fix it well for me, we'll catch it out. We'll catch it for you. But while they're trying to fix that, I want to find out from Richard. Richard, how did we get here?
How did we get here? How did we get here is traced from our extreme poverty population we have. When you look at Ghana way back in 2008, where extreme poor population, when I talk of extreme poor population, I'm talking of a population that find it very difficult to meet their basic human needs vis-a-vis their nutritional requirements. So such population, if you go back 2008, they constitute most about 14.5%. Even though successive government programs have reduced it to 8.4%, it's still quite high. Because if you're having a population of 27.5 million people, and you're having 8.4% in that bracket, which this category of people fall within, then you are building up a canker. And that is the issue. And again,
let me catch up with some messages so that we come and really look at this, because it's one of these things where I want to find out where the neglect came from. This is Peter. Please, my dear Ghanaian people, don't we have social institutions to take care of serious problems of this kind? The truth is that they cannot afford to take on challenges that the citizenry should do, which demands time and professionalism. I think that well, there's a chat on there. Okay. Well, we're saying that the poverty was growing, and therefore streetism was also growing with the poverty. But the law. It doesn't matter how much poor you get. If the law is the law and it works, it works. I mean, how many people go to the army barracks and say, I'm poor, so I'm coming to misbehave? It's not allowed, because you know that they won't permit it.
Yeah, I agree.
So somewhere along the line, there's some permissive culture that we have adopted.
No, I don't think it's a culture that we have adopted.
If you are poor, you can do anything in this country on the basis that, look, I'm poor. I can sell on the road. I'm poor. I can build on the pavement. I'm poor. I can drive a rickety car. I'm poor. I mean, if you're poor, you can start up a market anywhere. And everybody says, oh, well, they are poor. Leave them.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes they're not even poor.
Yes. The issue is that, you see, the poverty as a whole has become endemic now. And it's like people are finding it very... And urbanization has also been a major cause of this sort of streetism. Everybody wants to rush to the cities to get a greener pasture. And the question is, the jobs are not there. And some of them comes and whatever hopes they have is being dashed out. Now, there's one thing I'd like to share with our listeners. When you talk of persons on the streets, there are three categories. And that is where sometimes we don't really try to identify. We have people on the streets, who we call them off the streets. Their objective is to be on the streets. They have still ties with their families. They come and sell their wares, generate some income, and go back home. They are there. We have those also who are like neglect children, refugees. We have finding them children who have been neglected by their parents. They are off the street. They don't have any family ties. Then we have those born on the streets, grow up on the streets, married on the streets, and that is it. They are the worrisome. So such people, that is where we have a big challenge.
Let me see if I can catch up with the messages now. Peter said, please, my dear Ghanaians, Ghanaian people, don't we have social institutions to take care of serious problems of this kind? The truth is that they cannot afford to take on challenges that the citizenry should do, which demands time and professionalism. I think that the minister has good intentions. However, she should establish training institutions so that the young people, especially our graduates, can be trained and take up jobs of this kind. It will eventually take on a national character and will therefore be well established. Otherwise, the approach by our good minister is using will make it take on a political outlook, and as soon as the government loses power and another one comes in, it collapses. Even a mere reshuffling of ministers by the current president can lead to its collapse. And then Stephen Quay says churches can also play a role rather than putting up big mansions. Victor Ampon says that is long overdue. Steve Kobe Aka says great vision, long live. Okay, so I think the general sentiment is that people were saying that this is a good idea.
Yes, it's a good idea.
And so maybe the onus now on you is to come to us, for us all to buy into it and find out how it is we help you as you're leading to get this thing to work.
Yes, and so that is why it's boiled on the all stakeholders to come together, which I totally agree with you, especially the media, both the electronic and print media, to come out with these issues. We must be able to make the public aware of the effects of these persons, the effects of these people on the streets, the effect it had on the nation as a whole. And then again, too, I totally agree with the gentleman who said that. But then we must also bear in mind that streetism is a social protection concept. And so in social protection concept is now something which is common in every country now. The old days, in the 70s, where communities were playing the role of social protection, it's now the role of the state to play the role of social protection. So streetism is a social protection concept, and we must be able to deal with it. Just as we are dealing with our vulnerable, the orphans vulnerable, our aged who don't have any work they are doing, our disabled persons, people with disability who are not able to have anything to do. We must be able to have interventions that help them.
So how do we sustain this? Number one, in terms of financially, to make sure it goes on. And then number two, so that it doesn't look as if it's an MPP initiative and therefore the NDC say, I don't want to touch it. How do we make it a national, it's a national problem. So how do we make it take up the national problem? And how do we make sure that if you take 10 children off the street, only one pet comes back, but the 9 stay off?
Yes. Strengthen or ensure the sustainability of this program. Number one, fall on having a very good policy framework on it. For instance, if you look at our various interventions, like the livelihood empowerment against poverty, Ghana school feeding, the GSOP work, public extensive public works, those interventions have a policy in place. They have a policy framework. Even when you look at the LEAP is now also having a legal framework in place. So for successive government to buy in this concept, we must have both the policy and the legal framework on this streetism. We must see it as an intervention. We must see it as very critical if we really want to ensure that these people get off the streets. And then again, we must be able to mainstream this particular program, especially in the reintegration process. We must be able to build the capacity at the community level where these children are coming from. Many a times when we are doing the reunification, we only end up training the children or the people involved on the streets, and we leave out those in the communities. The communities must be educated. They must know that, look, begging on the street is not the right thing to do. So education must not only happen within the people that we are rescuing or people that we want to deal with, the community as a whole. And then, as the gentleman just pointed out, the churches have also critical role to play. The imams, the pastors, the reverend ministers, they also need to play a very critical role. In every pulpit, they must speak about this effect of the streetism. Because when the person approaches your home and he's a armed robber from the street, It doesn't look at you whether you're a pastor or anything. It be harm or anything. So the churches must speak for this particular issue as well. Then again, to the society as a large, we must look at it. Some of us are fortunate, we have means. We can identify some of these people on the streets and help them, or help to integrate them into our society.
Is that not what the challenge is now as to, you know, when do I give alms and when does I give alms? Or you take them to school, or I mean, get them off the street and take them to school. You know, you don't know this person. Do you take them home, or do you just, you know, how do you reach out to such a person?
Like, for instance, education on streetism, people on the street, for instance. Individual can take up the message and talk about it. Individual can take up these messages and talk about than we giving them alms or preparing food and give to them during our birthday time. That money can channel to any of the print media or has to talk about this criticism. Let us see the proactiveness of the issue. What we are saying now is like, oh, there are institutions there which are supposed to take care of that thing. The institutions themselves have challenges, and it's therefore relying on the society as a whole to come in on board to help this. One remarkable thing that our Honorable Minister have done is that in developing these projects, she invited both the NGOs, the civil society organizations, people who are involved with this criticism program, so that they can be able to give us the insights and the challenges that they have gone through in carrying out this exercise. So that we don't carry out exercise where in the case you rescue the people and they go back to the street again. That is why this particular program is in phases. Previous one that was carried out were not in phases. Normally they rescue the children, few of them are sent to shelter homes. We need a short time, some of them go away. But in their case, and the Honorable Minister stated now, she wanted the whole exercise to be in phases. And in the phases, you could realize that the latter part is to strengthen our legal and policy frameworks. So we need the civil society organizations. We need the NGOs who are involved in this particular case.
I know I've touched on it, but let's finish it again. I mean, when they say strengthen the legal framework, I mean, what's there now? There's nothing wrong. If we applied it, you know, it works. Yeah. So when you say strengthen, I mean, what do you do? Do you...
For instance, in the previous attempts to solve this issue of streetism, people on the streets, the one bigger challenge that particular phase at the time was effective coordination. Coordination, I'm talking of coordination both at institutional level and inter-institutional level. If those who have identified a person on the street and there's a case, those who should have a link with the police. Police should have the link with social welfare. That link. Those links are not there.
Okay.
Each of the institutions have its own TEF area. So that's why, if you look at this particular project, one of the specific objectives is to ensure effective coordination at all levels, both at institutional level and intra-institutional level, so that we can strengthen these institutions to be able to carry out these particular frameworks. In that, whatever we are doing, let me tell you something. When you look at the child, if you look at the children arts, very beautiful framework.
But it's been shelved. We need to get you back so that we can continue on this issue, because in terms of issues of gender can be treated in an hour. But we're very grateful, Richard Achete. But I always give you this number. It's 024-366-2001. 024-366-2001. Tantis Fashions, they make my shirts for the show, so give them a call. Order yourself a nice shirt. But let us all join in and try and end this streetism. So I'm sure with the education, we'll all buy into this. Thank you very much, Richard, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Tomorrow we're back to do this all over again. Thank you for watching.